Kaivalya Clean 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 Kaivalya
Namaste and welcome to the Kaivalya Marga class. As always, let's begin with a single Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Welcome to class. I believe it's class 6 now. And as always, it's a great honor to be in this class for me, to be able to share my perspectives and experiences that I've gained in this path. So thank you for giving me the honor to teach and share my experiences. Before I begin this class, I have received so many questions, and they're all relating to what we spoke about in the last class. And I'm very, very happy to receive these questions because it shows that that you all are really interested and you want to know more. It just gives me the motivation to teach and to share more, because I feel that sometimes it might be so abstract that maybe there would be a lack of interest, but I don't think it is at this point. I'm not the only crazy person. That's a comforting thing. I have a whole bunch of crazy people like me wanting to explore these dimensions, quote unquote crazy, right? And so thank you for your questions, and if I'm not able to get to all right away, I will try and address all of these today in the class. But it's also, please keep writing to me. I may not respond if it's a general question which I can use for others. I may not respond to you necessarily in detail in an email. I might just say thank you for your question, or if it's a text via WhatsApp. So again, my email is sundar@kyg.org. I don't think I included that here. Let me see if I can do that real quick. See, 1 second. I think I should be able to do that. You know what? No, I don't have my efficient assistant Maya, so I'll skip that for now. I won't waste time. Okay. Most of you know my email. If it's not, it's SU. Oh, wait a minute. I can do this. Hang on 1 second. 1 second. There you go. Why did I think of this? Sundar at kyg.org. You can only WhatsApp me. I'm gonna risk, but it's easier for me to respond. I'm not available for calls, but you can always send me a WhatsApp. Text, if you will, on this number. So that will help me responding, or I'll just say at least I'll because I like to have this conversation going. I like to deal with individuals. So if you are the first time you're sending me a WhatsApp text, please introduce yourself. I don't respond if it's just a number. Please tell me your first name, last name, so I can add you as a contact. Like I said, I like to deal with individuals. And these days with online things going on, I just want to make sure I'm not talking to some number which will later on not prove to be a number or something like that. Anyway, but I'm not available for calls. Please, I hope you understand. All right. Okay, so let's get to the questions. Okay, let's get to the questions. How do we practice space between the two ohms? This is a good question, because somebody had asked, how do we practice this space between the two ohms? Because once the ohm finishes, the akara, ukara, makara finishes, and then what happens? Should I hold the breath and then focus on the turiya avastha? Because the fourth state we talked about, right, in the ohm. For those of us who are not familiar with that fourth state, we just real quick, let's go to that. Let's go to this one here. So this is here. So it's an important question. I think it's important. So let me rub this off. I think you got this by now. If not, you can always go back and pause. Okay. All right. Let me see how this happened. Okay. Like I said, you had to bear with me. I'm not still become an expert in this. I love this artist board. And I thought I'll have another camera, because when I actually write, you won't see it until it's written, and now you can see the hand. Anyway, so we have the Om. So the Akara, when you start the Om, it starts with this place. Om. Once again. You see the is getting very close to Turiya. Now, how do you practice this part? How do you practice this? How do you bring this into consciousness every day in your practice? So this is not connected. So there is no sound here, correct? So what happens here? So in this, when there is no sound, what happens here is you will now, when you inhale between the two ohms. So watch what I do here. And then there is inhalation. that inhalation is where you want to go from this part to this part. That inhalation is what takes you from the silence. You just leave all of this aside, all these three states aside. You try and get out of all of these three states, and then you focus only on this state. So breathe in as long as you can, a long inhalation, just meditating on the Turiya Avastha. Then you again come back. Om. Inhale. Again. Om. Inhale. Okay, so it's very important here that you do not don't hold your breath. Now, why do I say this? One day Baba was passing by, there's the bhajan hall, and we would all sit in the bhajan hall. And there was, in the early days of my practice, which I was doing all these kind of things on my own, like there was no Google or internet, and I had not bumped into Appaya and all these teachers who would come there. I was just reading Swami Shivananda's books, which was in the library, and a couple of here and there books, and I just started practicing on my own. And so I used to do a lot of holding of the breath during the yoga and pranayama, and we'll come back to these topics again. Okay, I'm just sharing this because it means here why should we shouldn't hold our breath. I'm simply taking that particular rule which Baba told me. And so one day he was passing by the the bhajan hall, and then he suddenly stopped, looked at me. He said, "Why are you holding your breath so much? Don't hold your breath. It's not good for you. ఎప్పుడు చేయకూడదు. You should never hold your breath. Let it come on its own. అది అలాగే వస్తుంది. అంతవరకు నువ్వు చేయకూడదు." సో but then I said, "Swami, kumbhaka, ఏమిటి kumbhaka, bumbhaka, అదంటే ఏం వద్దు." He got so angry. Kumbhaka is a Sanskrit word for holding breath. I was just learning these terms. I was trying to be clever with Swami. I said, "Kani Swami, kumbhaka, ఏమిటి kumbhaka, అదంతా ఏం వద్దు." And he said, "You should not also teach this." This is how, I'm trying to dramatize it, but that's exactly how it was. అది మాత్రం ఎవరికి నేర్పించొద్దు. Don't teach this holding of breath to anybody. అక్కర్లేదు, అది అవసరం లేదు, అక్కర్లేదు, something like that, he said. So that raised questions to me as to why not. It says in the text and all of that. Later on, when I met Appaya and asked him many years later, he said, in very traditional schools of yoga, see, when you read in the scriptures and the book, you feel, oh, okay, I should do it, right? These scriptures were written, but then you've got to understand there's this Hatha Yoga and Hatha Yoga Pradipika, which was written in the 13th or 14th centuries, Yoga Yagnavalka, which was even way beyond, because Yagnavalka Maharishi and all was from the Sita's times. So those lessons were passed, and somebody finally wrote it down. The moment it was written down, people started reading and saying, okay, let me also do it. And in today's world, we just feel, oh, it's written down, therefore we must practice. What Appaya told me was, and I have reasons to believe, that in very traditional schools of yoga, they don't teach you the retention of breath. They don't teach you the retention of breath. You shouldn't do it consciously. Oh, I have to hold my breath. How long should I hold my breath? All that. It goes very against the very principles of survival. You have to only learn to breathe. Slow down your breath. Learn to breathe in deeply and slowly. Learn to control the exhalation. When you learn to control the inhalation and exhalation, the cessation of breathing before and after, in other words, the antara kumbhaka, that is, you breathe in and hold, and you breathe out and hold. So breathing out and holding is Bahya Kumbhaka, which we do in Uddiyana Bandha and all that. In Bandhas it's okay, but in meditation, in pranayama, don't continuously practice. I wouldn't teach that. I wouldn't tell you to do or not to do, but I wouldn't teach holding of the breath, cessation of the breath, simply because it came very, very strongly from Baba. Don't teach. When it happens, let it happen. And so, after many years of practice, it tends to happen. After a while, you'll feel even the breath ceases for a little bit, and that's okay. Just accept it, and then breathe again. You have to breathe again because we have to live, right? So it will happen naturally. So let us rest that talk about the breathing and the cessation of breath at this point, right there. So here, the question here was, should we hold our breath then to go to Turiya Avastha? As I explained, no. Turiya Avastha is done in the silence between the two ohms, and during the silence you're inhaling, and while you're inhaling, you imagine the consciousness coming up from all the chakras right into Ajna. Because Ajna Chakra represents that state beyond the 5 elements. Ajna Chakra is what introduces you to Turiya Avastha. Okay? So, when you inhale, you feel energy come all the way to Ajna. Just feel it. I mean, you don't have to, it's not, see, this is not a hard science. It's like an art of feeling. You got to feel it and just enjoy it. If you get some tingling in the spine, or you feel goosebumps on your skin, all of that elated feeling, all of that are just experiences you observe and say, okay, but I want, because what are we aiming for is not these experiences, the enlightenment, correct? Wisdom to be dawned, an experience that I really am something more. That awareness, that experience has to come. So until then, you practice this. So you inhale, and then again, Om, because from Turiya Avastha, you will learn to observe the 3 states. That is the beauty. It's like a bird being perched, the Paramahamsa, as I said, the white swan, perches itself on the crescent, if you will, and watches the 3 states, watches the drama of the 3 states, how consciousness is awakened, sleeping, dreaming, all of that is watched by this. How do we practice this? Om is one place where we practice it. In Shavasana, we practice this also. In Yoga Nidra. Shavasana is the asana. In Shavasana, you practice what is called Yoga Nidra. I've begun to introduce Yoga Nidra slowly in the beginners and the intermediate class. Yoga Nidra is something will take years to learn. And Yoga Nidra is where you're training to watch your body go to sleep. You don't go to sleep. That was also another question, I think, in WhatsApp. Somebody asked me that is it okay to fall asleep? I fall asleep. Is it a good thing to use it for sleeping and all of that? See, all these are modern therapeutic influence, and everybody wants to sell yoga today. So they'll say you're finding it difficult to sleep. Yeah, take Yoga Nidra and go to sleep. In traditional yoga, that's never been. Yoga Nidra is to teach you that the body can go to sleep, but you can stay awake. You can be watching the body. And if you can learn that, then you will truly experience a dimension. It's like a mezzanine. Why do we fall asleep? Why do we keep going back to sleeping? It's balancing. Just like I cannot balance on one leg. When I do a tree pose, for example, I either fall too much on the left or I go too much to the right, and I lose balance. With practice, what happens? The muscles are toned, the leg is toned, and I'm able to use all the toes of my feet, of my foot, to hold the ground rather, and spread, and the communication between the brain and the motor sensory nerves goes, and I'm able to balance. Correct? And then I'm able to talk while balancing. Then I'm able to move my hand. I'm able to move my neck and shoulders and all of that. So in tree pose itself, there are many variations to keep on challenging the ability to balance. Why are we training that? Why is tree pose, for example, a very important asana? And all balancing poses become very important. Whether you're balancing on leg, whether you're balancing on your hands, whether you're balancing on your neck, as in shoulder stand or head stand and all of that. The principle is balance. Why? Because when the body learns to balance, the brain registers that experience. The ability to balance is registered. See, this equanimity and all that we talk of has to be first of all an idea, and the brain can compare. The brain needs ideas to compare. What is equanimity? Wait a minute, it's like the tree pose. Oh yes, I've learned the tree pose. So I can sway a little, but I should not fall. So that's equanimity. Okay, come back to balance. If you're going too much to the left, oh yeah, I have to come back. Now why am I saying all this? That once the brain understands the ability to balance, then in Yoga Nidra, you apply that balance principle in meditation, in yoga nidra, in Om chanting, in that Turiya Avastha. Turiya Avastha is a state of balance. Because we are not able to hold the balance, we fall asleep. We come back to awakened state, or we fall into deep sleep state. We fall off, right? Because you're able to balance in the yoga poses, the brain gets an idea. In yoga nidra, you learn to balance. What are you balancing? Right now, let us understand it as a mind. Okay? Just for our ease of understanding. I can't get too much into each of these aspects. All of this will become clear. Right? Let's understand this as the mind. The mind falls asleep or stays awake. It's either fully awake. In Yoga Nidra, you begin after the asanas, you lie down, close your eyes. Oh, this is good, it's good. You're awake, right? You begin to listen to my voice. And then slowly, you keep getting there. And then suddenly, before you realize, boop, you're fast asleep. Then you wake up and you're, oh gosh. And you go back and forth. But I can assure you, all of us, whether we understand it or not, between awaken and fall asleep, we pass through that little zone, a little window, which teaches us how to hold the mind there. It's like a mezzanine floor in the building. It's neither the top floor nor the bottom. It's like in between. You will learn with practice. You will learn to hold your mind there, which is neither awake nor asleep. It is very similar to what modern psychology, I think, calls it the hypnagogic state. It is very similar to early morning when you're getting up from sleep, deep sleep. You're just coming back to becoming awake. There are moments where you slip into this dream pattern and you get into a lucid dreaming, you get vivid dreams and all of that. And then there are moments where you are sleeping but yet you're awake. It's the kind of a place that is an indication of where we want to hold it in Yoga Nidra. The more you're able to control that place where you're neither awake nor asleep, then in between that place, a whole world opens. It's like an escape. That is where we want to go into Turiya Avastha. Turiya Avastha is because, see, imagine, let me go back to that drawing here, right? So you see here, the Om is not, let me take off that connection. That bothers me. There is no connection here. So there is no connection between this and this. There is no connection here. So you have to slip somewhere from here, you've got to slip there. This is what yoga practice is all about. This is what meditation is all about. This is what Yoga Nidra is all about in Shavasana in practice. So if you use Yoga Nidra to sleep, then you will never get to experience this beautiful zone. You will miss it. So try. And believe me, I can tell you from my experience, and I'm sure there are many advanced practitioners who might be listening to this on this live session and who might listen to it later. Hats off to them. Because for me, it took years to practice Yoga Nidra. When I was first introduced, the very first time, somewhere in the mid-80s, once I went home and I went to, oh gosh, my mind is blanking. Bihar School of Yoga. I went to Bihar School of Yoga and I was introduced to Yoga Nidra there. It was a beautiful session. I came back, I started practicing. Within 5 minutes, I'll fall asleep. Especially after intense yoga, I would get tired initially. The body couldn't take it. I would fall asleep. Then came Appaya many years later, and then he would start talking in Tamil, very soothing voice. And his Yoga Nidra sessions will be 45 minutes to 1 hour. After 1.5 hours or 2 hours of yoga, I wouldn't know what's happening. I would feel very guilty. I would tell him, oh, you in other words, I will tell him, you went on speaking, I slept off. He said, it's okay, but what I'm saying is going deep inside you. And today, if I'm able to do Yoga Nidra, it's all because of the grace of these teachers. That somewhere deep in my mind, all of these words and teachings are so embedded. But slowly with practice, like with any other exercise, with practice, everything is possible. That is why spirituality, it's called sadhana. Sadhana means practice. Abhyasa, yoga abhyasa. Abhyasa is practice. Sadhana is, it's an eternal practice. Because once you conquer one thing, then the next thing opens up. Because your capability is infinite. It will come. So don't hold your breath. Breathe in and try to imagine the awakening of consciousness. And then come back to Om again. So understand the cycle of the three states of consciousness. I don't want to get distracted. So let me go to the next question. The next question was in relation to the R sound. I said even cats make R sound. There was a question there. The cats purr with R sound when they show gratitude. Do they also benefit? I really don't know. I think this is a good question, but I wouldn't know that. And I think whether they benefit or not, when they come and rub their body against you, purring gently, it just gives you immediately a sense of calmness, right? So the sound definitely benefits you, and maybe that's nature's their way of communicating warmth and affection. Any cat, I think small cats or big cats, can purr with gratitude. But the sound of the gentle sound of even a motorcycle, if you notice, if you idle a motorcycle and it's running, and if it's like a 2000, 5000 cc engine, it goes good. It's very, actually, it entrains your brain. It's very calming. The Damru of Shiva is the R sound, is the vibration that creates the whole universe. That is why at one point, and in one school of thought, they think of Agni as the very source of everything, not space as the very source, but Agni is the source of everything. But those are all debatable and more of things to contemplate and intellectualize. But the vibration is the R sound. So from wherever you hear, listen to that, and you'll find that when it is set in a particular frequency, it brings a lot of calmness to the mind. The next question is there a gland connected to every chakra, or is it just the pineal gland to Agnya chakra? Now, like I have mentioned earlier, for parts of the body or the chakras themselves, these are reference points so that you can link to what this chakra is capable of. These are the pineal gland, for example, and there are other glands as well, but those are more of functioning in the actual human body, and we might limit the functioning of a chakra, the capability of a chakra, to that particular functioning of a gland. No, the gland is a very small, minute representation of what this chakra is able to offer. If the pineal gland, for example, is the one that releases chemicals like the dimethyltryptamine or something, DMT molecule, okay? And so this DMT molecule, some scientists and people are studying and asking, is this a spirit molecule? Because that's the same molecule that is released in plants and all living things. And therefore those molecules have an ability to communicate to each other. And therefore when your pineal gland begins to release those in states of high consciousness, then what happens is you begin to communicate with plants, with trees, with birds and all of that. Suddenly you feel one. Now communicate in the sense not in English or in Sanskrit, but you suddenly feel a sense of connection, a deep sense of connection. Okay? And when I say feel, it's an awareness that an extension of you reaches out there. So pineal gland is considered as Agnya chakra. But pineal gland is not Agnya chakra. No. Agnya chakra is illumination. Pineal gland is the gland that represents, symbolically gives you a glimpse of what this Agnya chakra is all about. That's why I said these are all windows that will take you to the Agnya chakra. The real chakras are the chakras in the universal consciousness. Think of the Mahadev, Shiva meditating in his chakras. So you get a peep and then you will go and sit in his chakra. So you disappear completely. His chakra takes over. That's a completely different experience. A whole different world opens up. So don't restrict the ability of each of these chakras, each of these elements, to a particular gland in your body. Use the glands in your body, use the parts, because I know you will read books or check with others, and there are so many perspectives. But my take on this and my experience in this has been that these are small representations. the body itself, if I'm angry and I frown, so what is my face becomes a representation of my mind, correct? If I'm happy and I smile, my face, my body language becomes a representation of what? Of my mind. Then what happens to the state of my mind? My mind begins to reflect the state of the spirit inside. So the body is actually ultimately a representation of the spiritual energies that are activated inside. So the pineal gland and other glands, the thyroid gland and so on, these are small little glands that begin to get activated and produce hormones in the right manner when these chakras open up. But that doesn't mean that that chakra is a gland. This was not a physiological interpretation given to us by yogis at all. That was not the intention. They used this as merely as reference points to understand, because I can understand space here, I am connected to space outside. So use this as a reference and go to the space outside. Because air goes in and out here, so air element is here. So from here, I connect to the air element outside. It's like that. So Anahata chakra opens up your mind that way. So use and understand these glands as mere representations. Not the chakra is not restricted to the gland. The gland represents the one of the capabilities, or a small trailer, if you will, of the experience, the power and the energy of that particular chakra. So pineal gland, I use the word pineal gland because it's easy to understand, and the researchers, so many researches are being done to understand that there is a connection. That's Turiya Avastha, right? It is connecting to a higher dimensions, because until here we can relate to everything with our senses. Sense of hearing is here, the ears are here, the nose is in the Mooladhara, the tongue is in the Swadhisthana, the eyes are in the Manipuraka, the sense of touch is here, the sense of hearing is here. So we can relate to all these experiences. But now when you're talking of this, what happens? So pineal gland seems to hold those molecules which get released that begins to open this door. It's a door that opens. Beyond that, there is a whole Disneyland that happens. So that I don't believe can be understood as just the functioning of the pineal gland. So you see what happens in modern sciences, and I'm not blaming them. I think this is how they approach neuro scientists and people in brain research. They want to explain everything in relation to the brain. What happens in the brain when this is happening? Brain is not the cause for this, but it is an effect. The brain experiences the effects of the consciousness expanding, not the other way around. The brain does not cause consciousness to expand. So we want us to understand that when consciousness expands, then the brain begins to reflect that expansion of consciousness. And therefore, when you study the brain and see which centers are activated and all of that through biofeedback and all these, then what happens is we begin to say, oh, these are just brain getting activated. How do I activate, therefore, this center, this center, this center? That would be a very small approach. And that's why we fail to understand what the yogis are trying to tell us. They say, don't worry about the brain. That is only going to reflect the actual experience. So go for the actual experience. Let the brains begin to reflect that. Okay. So we'll talk about the reflection thing in a bit, because that is a good question. Can you explain the significance of Om Shanti Shanti Shanti? Is related to peace around us, and what is the significance of that in relation to Om and of our inner self? Om Shanti 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 is the last one. When we end this practice of Om, we end it with Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. There are many ways to interpret this. One, in simple way that we understand in this Om itself, one Shanti represents the awakened state. Let the awakened state and everything that I experience in the awakened state, let that be in peace. Let me make peace with the awakened state. See, there is no resistance in yoga. There is no resistance in this path. There is no fighting in this path. Though we say warriors and all, there's no fighting in this path. We're taking the quality of the warrior to be maintaining equanimity, not have any personal agenda in the war, But he is in there with focus, attention, determination, discipline, all of that, the warrior's quality. That's why warrior is used in terms of Arjuna or Hanuman, and all of these warriors from our ancient Sanatana Dharma are used as yogis. Okay, so what happens here is you make peace with everything that's happening in your awakened state with the first Shanti. And then with the second Shanti, you go into the dream state. In other words, the mind state, in my emotions, in my thoughts. I want to make peace with all my experience and my mental state. And the last one, in the spiritual state, I want to make peace with everything that I experience in the spiritual state. Because spiritual state is not very clear to us, just like deep sleep is not clear to us. What happens in deep sleep? Do you know? Do I know? Medicine, again, medical science will hook you on to machines and study and give you a report. But while in the deep sleep, do you know that? No, you don't exist, right? The I in you and me ceases to exist, and therefore we are in deep sleep. When we get up, we infer that because I was not dreaming, because I was not awake, I must have been sleeping. So it's an inference, correct? But that inference is not imagination, because the effects of deep sleep is reflected in health, good health and all of that, and the fact that you feel fresh. You know that you have slept well. That's a knowing, not simply a mental inference. So in this third Om, you make peace with that spiritual self that is very close to the deep sleep state, as in the Om, very close to Turyavastha. So the Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. This is a simple way to understand the Om. In Vedantic approach, the way they teach you the philosophy of this Shanti, Shanti, Shanti mantra is there is a level called Adhyatmika. That is a level of the self. Me, I, me, like Sundar. Adhyatmika is not the self, but self, Sundar. So whatever Sundar is experiencing, Sundar experiences all these three states. Sundar, I make peace in this existence of Sundar, Adhyatmika, the self, and the existence of the self in this lifetime, Shanti. Adi Bhautika. Adi Bhautika is Sundar's interaction with the elements, the five elements that comprise, and I'm constantly interacting with them, right? I need help from these elements. I want to make peace with all the five elements. Now, elements are also sometimes, I don't like that interpretation. Sometimes they interpret elements as different spirits and ghosts and all that. I don't think Vedanta's approach was that. But in interacting with these elements, I'm getting into the subtle region, and I make peace with those beings, if you will. Because elements, now I treat them as beings, as energies, right? That is why we have the understanding of devas here, the Agni Deva. I make peace with the Agni Deva. I make peace with them. I make peace with the wind, god of wind. I make peace with the goddess of earth, right? I make peace with all these energies at that level. So Adi Bhautika, Bhuta Bhautika, Adi Bhautika, Adhyatmika, Adi Bhautika, Adi Daivika. And then finally in the spiritual plane, I make peace with all the divine beings. All the divine beings. The less we speak about these divine beings, the better, because at that moment you are just saying, beyond all these there is energies that are sustaining this universe and me and all of this. So I bow to them. Ultimately you will realize all of this is just one single consciousness. So Adhyatmika, Adi Daivika, Adhyatmika, Adi Bhautika, Adi Daivika. So all, even there in that energies, there I call them divine beings, because we'll come to that. We'll understand the role of Ganesha, we'll understand the role of Kartik, we'll understand Kartikeya or Subramanya or Murugan as we call them. We'll understand the roles of these beings. Again, we call them beings because that's the only way we can deal and relate to these abstract, otherwise very abstract phenomenon. If I say an energy from Shiva's third eye, first of all, Shiva itself is an abstract. But so if I say, okay, it's from the ultimate source, there is a powerful energy coming out, and that energy cleanses all your chakras. you'll be like, wait a minute, what does it even mean? You just say chakra, chakras and energies. So we are given to understand by the yogis, and these are not fairy tales that they cooked up for you and me to understand. So we'll again explore that. Adi Daivika is these beings manifest to help you, to guide you, and to them I make peace with. Okay? These beings in the spiritual plane, there is only love and nothing else but love. And they wait to serve you, to awaken you. That is their job, to serve you and awaken you. That is the beauty of it. We'll explore that as we go along. I don't want to get distracted and start talking about those kind of things. So that is the significance of the three Shantis. If you find all of this is too much for you to gather, then simply say, my body, I want my body to be at peace. I want my mind to be at peace. I want my inner spirit to be at peace. You're practically talking of the same thing. That is the significance of Om Shanti Shanti. It's a no mantra, no single practice of Vedantic chants are ever given in a loose manner. There is so much depth in them. Okay, so that is my answer, long answer to the short question. And then I also spoke about the reaction, reflection, resound last time in the last class, I believe. And I said how the experience of your chakra begins to reflect around you. And I got 2 or 3 questions. So one interesting question was, so when I look into the mirror, I see myself. So is all of this embedded in the chakra energy, or when I'm in the chakra energy, all of this begins to appear to me? Okay. So the question was very well put. The dynamic energy in the form of a so-called chakra is being reflected in the relative reality we are living. Is the dynamic energy in the chakra, is that being reflected in the so-called reality that we live? And the answer is yes. The answer is yes. When your chakra is active and any chakra can be active at any point. Okay. So I'm going to connect this answer to the next, to a couple of other questions were, do these chakras, what are the connection between chakras and our behavior patterns, our personality traits? Are they also reflected to reflections of chakras? Can we control our behavior? How do we do that? And the other one was, if Mooladhara is it associated with a lot of negativity and fear? And how can I overcome the Mooladhara chakra or control the Mooladhara chakra? So all of these are related. I'm going to try and address this all together in one bundle. And we are going to understand all of this more and more as we examine these elements, go back to Mooladhara, again examine in bits and pieces. So bear with me. But because of that, I don't want to pile these questions and leave you with questions hanging in there. So I thought I will address these. So the reality that you and I frame outside, ask yourself, what is my idea of reality? And if that is your idea of reality and that is your everyday experience, then you know that a particular chakra is operating. For example, creativity. A lot of creativity is expressed when the Vishuddha chakra becomes activated. So when you find somebody very interested into music, they would sit and practice for hours and hours and hours and hours, singing, listening to music, singing. And I'm not talking of just casual singing where you put headphones and go for a run, not that kind of a thing. That is just to keep your frontal lobe of the brain occupied. Not those kind of music. I'm talking of people into learning music, seriously listening to Shastriya Sangeet, classical music, the Bach or Bhimsen Joshi and all of these, and they enjoy the sound element so much. They become so sensitive to even minute changes. I know people like that. You know so many people like that. Music is one example. It's the same thing in any art form. In drawing and painting, they could just go into it, and they'll find once they're in it, no sleep, no hunger, nothing. They will just be lost. They could spend hours and hours in that field. What is the reality at that point? If you ask them, they'll say, "Arey, what is there? What is so interesting other than music?" If it doesn't come, let's go for a movie. They'll say, no, that's too noisy for me. I love this. Once in a while, they'll take a break, perhaps. Then when the consciousness shifts to another chakra, So going up and down doesn't mean you're progressing, and no, it just shows, tells you which chakra is operating. Okay, this going up and coming down is, we have psyched ourselves into thinking that going up is progress and coming down is, no, it's not like that. So giving you an idea is, when you and I also experience this in terms of when you get so involved in your work and you love that you're solving a problem, like let's say for example, whether it's a technical problem on IT or something, and you're so involved in it, you're like, aha, if I do this, this happens, okay, let me get more into it. An engineer, for example, can go deep and get so absorbed in the analysis and the logical, the way the logic is laid behind this whole design component and all of that. He is in that world. Now, if you tell him, come, let's go for a walk, he says, no, I can't get out of this. I want to solve this. That is that world within world. So that at that point, creativity takes over completely. The whole consciousness is filled with that creativity. That chakra is, which is more active. The other chakras are also active. It's not like a watertight compartment, but this is more active. Meditation, this becomes more active. Giving you an example. So when a chakra is active, you will see things completely differently. Your perceptions will change. Now, when we talk about the Mooladhara, for example, I use Mooladhara as an example because it's an example you and I can easily understand. When we are prone to a lot of food related, whether I'm afraid to eat or eating too much, either way, it's an imbalance of earth element. Not too much, not too little. It's just imbalance. Okay. There is fear, psychosis. Fear means fear of survival. Any kind of fear. Fear is, there's one basic fear which expresses in many forms. So when there is fear, we go back into Mooladhara. Mooladhara becomes active. Now these are the negative sides of it. But Mooladhara is also very grounding, gives you peace. When we lie down in Shavasana and I say surrender your body to the earth, where do you think the body is going? It's going to Mooladhara. The Mooladhara chakra connects to the earth element. The earth element begins to bring prana and refresh and heal the body completely. So Mooladhara doesn't mean you're bad, there's something wrong with you and I have to somehow control. If these are the interpretations you're reading, please stop reading those kind of things. There is no one chakra that is bad and one chakra that is good. It just represents the energy of the chakra. This little pen that I'm using to draw on this tablet is neither good nor bad. Why? Because if I take it and poke it in my eye, it will make me blind. So am I going to blame this? No, I won't do that. And please don't try anything if you're a young person watching this. Anyway, the point here is there's nothing wrong in this, correct? It's the same thing with chakra. Chakras, there's nothing wrong. These are the divine energy centers in your body that will give you an understanding, a greater understanding of your interconnectedness with the universe and your ability to draw energies from the universe. But it also gives you a reflection of which chakra is operating, and if I'm not happy, how do I control that? Fear and all of that. Forget the Mooladhara chakra. The earth element in your body being imbalanced is what causes weight loss or weight gain. Both extreme weight loss, extreme weight gain, food related issues, fear and security issues. All of this comes when the earth element is imbalanced. First, let's approach that. The chakra part of it we'll understand more, but the earth element itself, okay, and it's of course it's enmeshed with the chakra. Similarly, if there's anger issues, suddenly the rage comes, okay, that is the Manipuraka chakra. If there is too much emotional issues, then there is the imbalance of the heart chakra. Too much attachment, too much raga, too much dvesha, too much of attachment, too much of hatred, just mad swings back and forth. It is this chakra. And so it's like that. Each of this chakra is got, mostly it's all beautiful positivity. But if you go into this attention deficiency syndrome, where you're not able to concentrate, you're just floating. Anytime given a chance, you just want to be in the dream world. You're just floating. Then that is an imbalance, because you can create things in that floating sensation, but you can't just go on only be floating, right? You can't be only in the dream world all the time. It has to translate itself. And so therefore, excess of that also creates imbalance. So that is why you have all of these. Then the whole practice, that is why, the concept of understanding yoga as a lifestyle is understanding these elements. And then when I begin to bring it into my lifestyle, from the food I eat, the choice of clothes I wear, how they are linked to all of these chakras, those are the things we're going to learn as we go along. So be patient. But this is the point here. So you can change your behavior, of course. If you don't like a behavior, you just change it. But if you're struggling to change a behavior, if that is where you go to a doctor and say, why is it that I'm trying to change my food habits, but I'm not able to, I can't control my tongue, for example, right? If I can't control my tongue, I go to somebody and say, how do I control my tongue? I'm doing my best, but every time I see a sweet, I want to grab a second, third, or fourth helping. Or if I taste pickles, oh my God, that's so fancy, I want to go for it more. If it's excess, then what you need to focus, for example, don't take me literally at this point, but giving examples to open up your minds of thinking. You would focus on what? Because it's taste related, not hunger related, taste related. Then I focus on the imbalance of the water element. So then how do I control water element in my lifestyle? That is how yoga approaches. Because ultimately, perfect health, and then that becomes a beautiful state for launching you into higher states of dimension, is when these elements begin to balance. All of these elements begin to harmonize. That is why in Shavasana I always end saying, allow these elements to balance themselves. Allow, surrender, let the innate wisdom in every cell awaken. That intelligence is a universal intelligence, and let the balance happen. So just stay back and watch. By getting into the fight, we get bit, right? When two dogs are fighting or barking and growling, and you just stay back. You don't get into it trying to stop the fight. So it's the same thing with these. So stay back and watch these elements, allow them to balance. Okay, so you can change your behavior, but if it becomes very difficult, then you know that there is an elemental imbalance that is causing this difficulty in the path. And therefore, by taking another approach, I can make things easier for me. This is why mantra chanting, pranayama, yoga asanas, and all of this comes, we can approach it in so many ways, bringing into balance, to bring these elements into balance. I think I have covered these questions, all of them. What does it exactly mean by when we are moving higher in the consciousness, we see everything in a different perspective? I think I kind of gave an idea here, and we'll understand this more. You will, let us a simple example this person asked for. Let us say two of you are sitting on the seashore and watching the sunset. Okay, there are two people, two good friends. They both are sitting on the seashore and watching the sunset. The one is saying, oh my gosh, this is mind-blowing. The once in a lifetime experience. What a beautiful sunset. The other person is saying, kya yaar, this all machhar is biting me, all these insects have started getting dusk, mosquitoes are coming, come, let's go. All these flies are going to, it's all very nice, but these mosquitoes are killing me. So one is preoccupied with mosquitoes and insects beginning to come because dusk is coming. The other one is completely lost in the sunrise. Now, what does this mean? The other person's consciousness is in a completely different level than, so there are two different levels of consciousness. One is completely still in the body. Me and my body, I have to protect my body, I have to go back somewhere safe, it's going to get cold or mosquitoes are biting me, I need to go. The other one is right now lost in that. There is no I. The I in him is very small. He's engulfed by the beauty of the scenery in front of him. Those are the times when Vishuddha becomes to open the doors for higher experiences. Now, these are not only practices that come after years of meditation. In satsangs, in bhajans you listen to, you suddenly feel so elevated, so joyful. That joy can't be given by the senses. It is not necessarily, it's a combination of them. Like you're listening to a beautiful bhajan. So it is good music, definitely. Those are it's like a ladder that hoists you up there. They are not the reason for it. They are just a means to hoist you up there. So a nice bhajan, a beautiful chant, something just props you, and then you're like, oh, it helps you take off. And then you enjoy that heightened state of consciousness. So all of us experience glimpses of this third eye opening. So it's not so mystical. So don't push away these things thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know when this will happen, when it will happen in my meditation and all of that. What we are learning and trying to learn in the path of yoga is how can I understand this path so I can get there when I want to. Whenever I want to, how can I go there? How can I go back to my home whenever I want to? That is the point. I need my path back home. And inside my home, I want to get to these rooms whenever I want to. How do I know it? That is what yoga is all about. But all of these, once you go there, you'll be like, oh wait, I've been in this room before. I've seen this before. So there's nothing so out of the world that you wouldn't have touched upon in our everyday life if you have been living and you're opening your mind to this spirituality. Of course, if somebody is completely in opposite or in a different kind of lifestyle, which is completely not open to anything beyond even the fire element. For example, when we say we have animal qualities, and I'll end with this because it's already 5:25. I hope you didn't mind me answering these questions, but I think we learn a lot when we re-examine and explore. So when we talk of animal qualities, for example, what are we talking about? First of all, the basic things about animals, survival, correct? Survival is the basic. They will do anything to survive. They will bite you, they will kill you, anything to survive. So survival is instinct. Not that it's bad, it's in us also. So without that survival instinct, we wouldn't have evolved over millions of years. Okay, survival instinct. Then comes the sexual instinct. In other words, the senses. Senses for them is everything. Animals listen, smell, see, and all of that. And then they are interested in procreation. That's what they are born. They have seasons exactly. They are not run by moods and swing. They have seasons and they do that. So they have procreation, survival instinct. And the third one is territorial. Generally, animals are very territorial. Even birds are very territorial. They are about me. So we have a bird feeder we feed, and hundreds of birds come and each one is fighting with the other to grab, right? We're saying, oh, the birds are having fun. But actually, then the big blue jay comes and he quacks everybody out. And there's one big eagle, sometimes he swoops down trying to grab his meal. So everyone is territorial, trying to find what is best for me. Now these are signs of the three chakras down. The fire element, the water element, and the earth element predominantly. So people's life are just held there and they have no time to love, and they say, I don't have all that. What is this nonsense about love? And I don't have no time for that. And they don't have any idea of creativity. They're not interested in anything. Don't start looking for people and judging them. I'm just giving an example. There's very rarely you come across such people who have no feelings at all and all of that. But I'm giving an example. If there are predominantly people caught in that, then when we talk of higher energy centers, and you may have experiences, they'll have no sense what you're talking about. So these are the people who, when people write to me and saying, what you're talking is complete nonsense, and this is really not, you're just making up all this. And I understand them as not being able to see. Their perspective is locked in a few lower chakras. You can't blame them. They are locked in that chakras, and therefore they can't see beyond that. And therefore to such people, what do? You say, all right, you know what, let's begin with yoga asanas. That's what we do with kids, right? Let's start with yoga asanas. Then when yoga asanas begin, when you begin to understand your body, talk to your body, and you begin to release these pranic energies because you are beginning to interact with the elements, then chakras begin to open. Then your attitude, your perspectives, everything changes. So your perceptions to life will change. You will not be threatened by that same individual who was threatening you earlier. The individual has not changed at all, but he or she will stop threatening you because you have found a more secure place inside. And you are looking at this whole situation with a completely different perspective. All right. So, this is the beauty of this path. There is so much to understand and so much to explore. Let us see how the universe guides it. Like I said, I have an idea. I made points where what all I want to cover in the next few weeks and months. This is a lifetime learning. So again, I always earnestly plead for your patience and perseverance in this path. That's how we started in the Dakshinamurti temple. So hopefully I'll be able to share a very interesting video in the next class talking about the Mooladhara. But we'll just touch upon the Agnya and the Sahasrara, just to touch upon how to practice them, and then we'll go back into the elements. Now examine elements. Keep the chakra, the concept of chakras aside for the time being, because they are very, very abstract. Okay, we will come to that, revisit it from a chakra perspective differently. Now what we will do is, we will, after doing the next the Ohms, the Agnya and the Sahasrara, which is less said the better, because these are all very abstract terms at this point. But we'll touch upon that. After doing that, we will come back and explore the elements and our connection with the elements. First, let's get that really clear. Then we will understand the chakras and all of that. So, as always, such a pleasure sharing these thoughts with you. As I share with you, many of these questions come back to me and reminds me of similar questions that used to haunt me when I was so excited and so eager to understand this path 30 years ago, I would think. And so I can understand your enthusiasm, and I can relate rather to how eager you are, and that motivates me to continue to teach. So thank you for being part of this journey with me. Help me to relive these concepts. Thank you. Let's bring this class to a close with 1 Om and 3 Shantis. Shanti.